let's move on to the final part of this little section on images in iOS. The final thing we have to look at is the launch screen. So if I open up, for example, my first app, the launch screen is what's shown there, just before the app loads. So if we come over to our Xamarin and we open up our info.p list, you'll notice Universal Launch Images has a don't use asset catalogs. Okay, so we're not using catalogs in the same way that we would with app icons. Now this used to be how launch images were defined. You'd have to create an image for each device and resolution. Now, however, you can set a launch screen. And this is a zip file which is contained under resources. So if I go ahead and double click launch screen.zib, you'll see the items that were shown to us when we loaded up our app. This is a label and a label. So this is a much better way of doing launch screens. Instead of creating 10 different size screens, what we can do is have a sort of pseudo storyboard in the designer that allows us to have what we like. So you can go ahead and delete labels in here, and you can drag in your own items from the toolbox. But be aware that things like buttons will not work, because this isn't a dynamic screen. The user cannot interact with it. You also can't have animated controls, I believe. This has to be a static image. So you should use this launch screen as reinforcement of your branding or of what your app does. So I'm going to drop in a label and call it launch. And then I'm just going to increase the size, and of course the same pinning constraints also apply to the launch screen, so you can pin your items. Okay, and now if we hit play, our launch screen will be changed for us. And there we have our spectacular launch screen. Okay, stop that running. So that now is a much easier way than how iOS used to do it with all of the multiple images and what have you. I'm kind of holding out hope that they do the same thing with the app icon, because it would be a lot easier for us as developers to make those icons. Right, that concludes this lecture on the launch screen inside of iOS apps.